officially 1 year away from next Christmas, which means only one thing: Merry Christmas! And I'm looking to celebrate the only way I know how. Poorly.
It's the same.
Yeah, I think I want to talk about my collector's editions now. Thanks, Scott. Okay, so recently Scott the Woz uploaded a sequel to a video that he posted quite some time ago about collector's editions, where he basically gave you the rundown on a few. How much do they cost? What do they come with? Was it false advertising or pretty damn close to it? You get the idea. I have a few collector's editions of my own that I paid various prices for. So really I'm just going to go over them somewhat briefly, tell you what's inside, whether or not I felt that they were worth the price, and if they make for good collector's editions. A question I would like to try answering is, what does make a good collector's edition? So without any further ado, I'm going to get things started with a collector's edition that actually kind of surprised me. Alone in the Dark, a game that left quite an impression, even if it wasn't a great one at first. What surprised me about this game was how much I actually came to love it during the initial production of my review. I went from being lukewarm on it to liking it enough to drop far too money on this collector's edition. It comes with 2 statues, a glow-in-the-dark steelbook, stickers, a door hanger, bonus DLC, and of course, the game. Have to make that distinction because there have been some that don't have it. The weakest part of all this is definitely the DLC, that, as I said in my original review, really should have been included in the main game as unlockable content. Keyword included. And I will admit that the stickers and door hangers certainly felt like they were added here to sort of pad the number of items included, but they're appreciated nonetheless. Now, while the steelbook might not look like much, well, bam! Look at that! Honestly, the actual standout here is, of course, the statue. Well, the statue and his son. The Dark Man, though, is quite nice, and I always loved his design, even if he wasn't really that scary in the game. I'd say at $200, this sucker was more than a pinch overpriced. But like I said, I fell in love with this game and its world, and I wanted to grab one of these before their strictly limited stock was completely sold out. Oh my god! Well, that stings a bit. This next one stings far less, though. To the Moon Deluxe Deluxe Edition? How could I forget that's what it was called? Oh well, To the Moon is one of my favorite games of all time, so of course I had to grab this. This comes with a plush, a physical soundtrack on CD, a reversible poster, lapel pins, and a keychain. And as a lover of physical media, it was so great getting to have this game in my hands with a soundtrack CD to boot. They were spoiling me. The lapel pins are adorable, and though I doubt I'm ever going to use them, it's nice to finally be the type of person that can say, why yes, I have lapel pins. And the keychain goes very well with my wall. Also, I do dislike having the poster only because it was folded, so displaying it in any way is always gonna bug me just a bit. The real eye catcher here, though, is of course the plush. While I personally would have preferred a statue of some kind because that's just what I look for, this was a meaningful inclusion right out of the game, and it's just adorable. Not to mention well made. I have to say this was super well put together. Nothing too crazy, has plenty of fun stuff included, and left my wallet fat and jolly being only $65. I know that's still plenty of money, but compared to the other collector's editions I have here, it feels like I stole it. I didn't steal it. Also, I think it goes without saying, by the way, that you should absolutely play the games I'm going over here. While they vary in quality, they are all still nonetheless quality. And speaking of quality, check out my next really expensive box. This was the game that changed everything for me when I was but a small idiot, so I was not going to miss out on throwing all my money at Capcom when the rumored remake finally, officially came our way. This set comes with the game, steelbook, DLC, digital soundtrack, art book, poster, and the man himself, Leon S. Kennedy, in all of his remake glory. This time I'm starting with the main course, our boy Leon. He feels and looks like a figure that should cost a pretty penny on his own. He's not posable or anything, but I mean, look at him! Seriously, he's my pride and joy. The other collector's editions should really be taking note here. Do they come with a Leon figure? As per usual, the digital goods here are fine, and the art book is nicely made, despite being quite short and limited. And hey, who doesn't want a nice steelbook? But I'll be honest, it's pretty basic across the board and doesn't stray too far from what one would expect in a collector's edition. I mean, for goodness sake, one of the inclusions here is just box. I mean, they're right, it's a nice box. It's just a pretty funny way of listing it as a bonus in a $250 collector set. Oh yeah, did I mention it's $250? Or was? Ugh. Also, unrelated to the overall quality of the collector's edition, I'm a little bit mad that the tape for the protective bag that the box was in part attached to the collectible box itself. So, despite opening it very carefully like I always do, I left a big old tear in the otherwise really cool packaging. Or as Capcom would put it, box. The presentation of this particular edition here is, in my opinion, unparalleled by the rest in my collection. I have to hand it to the designers here, as they didn't just make a good collector's edition, they made one that also looked cool completely on its own and could be displayed on its own. It's no less than our boy Leon deserves after all the bullshit he continues to be put through. Now, when it comes to protagonists that have to keep going through stupid shit, there are few who have it as bad as this next guy.
It felt like a black hole. An opening to darkness.
You know, there's probably some recency bias and, well, regular bias in here, but this might be one of the coolest variants of a game I've ever bought. Everything about the Alan Wake 2 Collector's Edition is just oozing with charm. From the second I remove the outer box, there's embossing all over the slipcover, which feels like it shouldn't be super impressive, but it really is. Inside, we have the game, enamel pin set, keychain, hardcover art book, and, oh my god, the angel lamp from the game that actually functions. I'm a 29-year-old man that giggled like a maniac when he first lit this thing up. It feels worth the price on its own, and that's hilarious considering, well, it's a lamp. It's so detailed and feels well built. There's a heft to this thing. Also, they included a way to power it with USB rather than just batteries alone, so you can keep it on as long as you want whenever you need to ward off the darkness. The art book is just great. Once again, a hardcover book, but boasting a bit more than what was offered in RE4. Still not as exhaustive as a fan like me would want, but it'll more than suffice. I don't know who Limited Run Games got to produce this, but bravo. Even the pin set and keychain feel really substantial, and not like last-minute additions to reduce that sticker shock. And that price? A crisp $200. Honestly, I fully expected that and was all too happy to pay it, considering I could finally have a piece of Alan Wake merch to go along with the other Alan Wake stuff I began collecting maybe 6 months to a year ago. I never thought I was going to be able to jump on the bus when it was coming by, so to speak. Unlike Alan, I'm not much for metaphor. I just really need to find that bucket. This was simply a pleasant surprise, considering that the game itself wasn't planned to and didn't launch with a physical copy at all. As much as I love it though, I can't say it's perfect or has everything I ever would have wanted in this edition. Alan Wake 2 ended up getting quite the fancy release overall, but when you compare it to the first game's release, it makes you wish that maybe it included fewer things like enamel pins, and more things like this soundtrack CD, and a bonus disc that includes an entire making-of documentary about the game and Remedy themselves. There are times when you want to rep with merch, and other times where you want to rep with knowledge. Learning about the people that make your favorite things will ultimately last far longer and be of greater use than the merch, despite how awesome the merch is. Inspiration is priceless. And that's why ultimately the collector's edition for the first Alan Wake is my favorite out of the whole bunch. It's not as flashy and doesn't include something on the same level as the Angel Lamp, but what it does give you is insight. And I think we all know how important being shown behind the curtain can really be for creatives. The number of people that wanted to get into making games or movies or, well, really any kind of art because of watching behind the scenes is a number I don't have nearly enough time to count to. I might not even know how to count that high. Don't tell the Angel Lamp this, but I think this bonus disc might be my favorite inclusion of any collector's edition I've ever bought. I will always spend a bit more on something that includes tons of bonus features and removes some of the fog that obscures how the sausage is made. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that a collector's edition that would fully fit my preferences wouldn't also cost an ungodly amount though. At the end of the day, these are variants that include way more stuff that requires tons of work to design, produce, and ship. And after all that, they still need to make a little money on it. I know it's easy to look at these as cynical cash grabs these days, and there certainly have been more than a few of those. But I just choose not to look at any of them that way. I get some silly memorabilia, and they get an extra $1 or $2 from me. Or an extra $180, but who's counting? All that it really comes down to is, do I deem them all worthy of my dollar and time? Well, in each of these cases, yeah. The question I set out to answer at the beginning of this video can't really be answered in the traditional sense because, like so many other things, it's just subjective. Sure, I can recognize that they may be overpriced, but at the end of the day, I chose to pay that price because I alone deemed the contents worth it. I get cool crap to display on my shelf and a documentary that teaches me about my favorite development studio and one of my favorite games. Look, at the end of the day, what really matters most, what it takes to make a truly good collector's edition, is that you really should consider including a Leon Kennedy statue. Now that I think about it, none of my other collector's editions came with one of those, so you know what? Actually, they all suck.